General Kavek stared out across the devastated plain of Noctis Valley, the crimson dust of Mars swirling around his armored exoskeleton. For 17 cycles, the coalition forces had been losing ground to the Scourge, a hive-minded species that consumed everything in its path. Half of the Martian colonies had already fallen, and the remaining settlements were barely holding on. "Status report," he demanded, his translator converting his native Arcturian clicks into standard coalition speech. His second-in-command, Major Lisha, approached with hesitation evident in her six-legged gait. "Sir, we've lost contact with Outpost Deimos. That's the third defensive position to fall this week." Kavek's compound eyes darkened, a sign of deep distress in his species. The coalition, an alliance of 17 spacefaring civilizations, had brought their most advanced technology and battle-hardened warriors to this fight. Yet nothing seemed effective against the relentless Scourge. "And the reinforcements?" he asked, already anticipating the worst. "Delayed, sir. The Centaurian fleet was ambushed at the asteroid belt. They won't arrive for another 14 cycles, if at all." Kavek clicked his mandibles in frustration. 14 cycles was too long. Mars would fall in half that time. "There is one development," Lisha added, her voice modulator dropping to a lower frequency. "The Council has approved Emergency Protocol 17. The General's exoskeleton went rigid. They wouldn't. The first transport landed at Olympus Base 3 hours ago. Protocol 17 was considered a measure of absolute last resort, reaching out to the isolated planet Earth for military assistance. The Coalition had observed Earth for centuries, but maintained a strict non-interference policy due to the humans' unpredictable and often violent nature. "Humans," Kavek whispered, the word itself seeming to carry a dangerous charge. "They've brought humans to Mars." Captain Alejandra Reyes stepped onto Martian soil with a calm that belied the gravity of the situation. Behind her, 100 of Earth's most elite soldiers disembarked from the transport vessel, their specialized combat suits adapting instantly to the lower gravity and thin atmosphere. An Arcturian officer approached, his insectoid features unreadable to human eyes. "Captain Reyes," I presume the alien said through his translator. "I am Major Lisha. Welcome to what remains of Mars colony." Alejandra nodded curtly. "My team is ready for briefing. We've studied the tactical data you transmitted to Earth, but we need first-hand intelligence." The Major led her to the command center, a structure that blended seamlessly with the Martian landscape, nearly invisible until they were at its entrance. Inside, General Kavek awaited with representatives from various coalition species. The tension was palpable as Alejandra entered. These advanced civilizations had been fighting a losing war, and now they were placing their hopes on what they considered a primitive species. "Captain," the general began, "I'll be direct. We requested 1,000 soldiers. Your planet sent 100. Alejandra's expression remained neutral. "Quality over quantity, General. You've been fighting conventionally against an unconventional enemy. That ends today." She activated her wrist computer, projecting a holographic display of Mars with highlighted Scourge territories. "Your forces have been defending fixed positions, reacting to Scourge movements. That's why you're losing." The general's mandibles clicked rapidly, the Arcturian equivalent of indignation. "Our defensive strategies were developed over thousands of years of interstellar conflict. And they're failing you now," Alejandra countered without hesitation. "The Scourge adapts too quickly to standard military doctrine. We'll need to fight differently." She gestured, and one of her lieutenants stepped forward, placing a small device on the central table. It expanded into a detailed model of the nearest Scourge hive. "Humans have a long history of asymmetric warfare," Alejandra continued, "of being outgunned, outmanned, and still prevailing. We don't just adapt to our enemy's strategies, We changed the rules of engagement entirely." 3 days later, Major Lisha watched in horrified fascination as the human soldiers prepared for their first offensive. Their methods were unlike anything the coalition had attempted. Small squads with minimal equipment, operating independently rather than as a coordinated force. "This is madness," she told Cavex as they observed from the command center. "They're sending 12 soldiers against a scourge outpost that hosts thousands." Cavex's compound eyes fixed on the tactical display. Yet you notice they don't seem concerned. Indeed, the humans were exhibiting a chilling calm as they checked their weapons and communications. There was no grand speech, no ceremonial preparation, just quiet efficiency and occasional dark humor that the translators struggled to interpret. "They fight like predators," Cavex observed, "not like soldiers." Sergeant Miguel Torres moved silently through the underground tunnel, the other 11 members of his squad spaced precisely behind him. The coalition forces had been attacking the scourge head-on, a strategy that played directly into the hive mind's strengths. The humans had immediately recognized the folly in this approach. "Junction point in 20 meters," whispered Corporal Chen through their secure comlink. "Sensors indicate heavy scourge activity above." Torres gave a hand signal, and the squad halted. Their mission wasn't to engage the scourge directly, but to deploy a specially developed parasitic virus into the hive's ventilation system, a virus that would turn the scourge's interconnected consciousness against itself. It had taken human scientists just 2 days to develop what coalition researchers couldn't create in years, a biological agent that specifically targeted the scourge's neural network. "Remember," Torres murmured, "we're not here to win a battle. We're here to show these things what psychological warfare really means." Back at the command center, Cavex and the coalition leadership watched in disbelief as the first reports came in. The squad had not only successfully deployed the virus, but had also rigged the scourge's own energy systems to overload in a cascading failure. "They didn't just attack the outpost," Lisha said, her voice modulator unable to fully convey her shock. "They made it destroy itself from within." Within hours, the effects spread throughout the interconnected scourge network. Hive clusters began exhibiting erratic behavior, attacking each other, or falling into dormant states. The virus didn't kill them, it did something far worse. It introduced doubt, paranoia, and chaos into a system built on perfect harmony. As the days passed, more human tactics revealed themselves. Some squads would leave a single scourge alive after an encounter, but not before psychologically breaking it, knowing it would carry that trauma back to the hive. Others would use the scourge's own communication methods to broadcast false information, creating confusion and friendly fire incidents. By the end of the second week, 3 major scourge hives had completely collapsed without a direct assault ever being launched against them. 1 month after the humans' arrival, General Cavex stood with Captain Reyes at the observation deck overlooking Olympus Mons. The scourge had been driven back from Mars, their forces in disarray. "Your methods," he began, struggling to find the right words. "They are effective, but they trouble many in the coalition. There are calls to end our alliance once this war is concluded." Alejandra nodded, unsurprised. "We understood that risk when we accepted this mission, General. Humanity has always been willing to cross lines that others won't, especially when survival is at stake." She turned to face him fully. "You called us because you were losing a war. Did you expect us to fight it gently?" Kavek's compound eyes shifted through various shades: contemplation, discomfort, and finally, reluctant acceptance. "The Council fears that once the scourge is defeated, humans might become the next threat to coalition peace." Alejandra smiled thinly. "A reasonable concern. But remember, General, we're ruthless against our enemies, not our friends. Earth has enough internal conflicts without looking for interstellar ones." As they stood in silence, watching the Martian sunset, Carvex couldn't help but ponder the irony. The war had indeed been lost until human soldiers showed up, but in saving the coalition, humanity had also served notice to the galaxy that they were a force unlike any other. Not necessarily more advanced or powerful, but undeniably more willing to embrace the darker aspects of warfare that more civilized species had long abandoned. And that, perhaps, was the most terrifying weapon of all.